My name is Miranda. People used to change their path whenever they saw me because I was a homeless, shelterless girl. But it wasn't always like this. There was a time when I had everything, except for one thing. And I found that thing on the day I made a mistake simply because I was starving. I hadn't eaten anything for 2 days. At a cafe table, a young man was about to leave his croissant behind. I couldn't resist, so I reached out my hand to grab it, but he angrily slapped my hand away. He yelled at me, asking how I dared to touch his plate. I panicked and told him in a crying voice that I was sorry, that I hadn't eaten for 2 days and was just trying to get some help. But he laughed at me mockingly and said that people like me only know how to make excuses, that I didn't even deserve to touch his plate, and told me to get out of there. He was still shouting at me when his wealthy father arrived. He strictly scolded his son and told him to shut his mouth, saying he was deeply ashamed of his behavior. He looked at me, and his eyes didn't have hatred, but pity. He spoke in a gentle voice and asked for forgiveness on behalf of his son. He said he could see I was in a tough spot and promised to help me get back on my feet. He offered me a place to stay for the weekend and assured me that he would help me find both a job and a safe place to live. He brought me to their massive mansion-like estate. It felt like a whole new world to me, but not everyone there was welcoming. His daughter Lydia got annoyed the moment she saw me and asked her father what that smell was. She questioned why they had brought a tramp into the house when they had already fulfilled their charity quota for the month. Albert immediately scolded her and reminded her that I was their guest and deserved respect. Then he asked William to show me my room and told Lydia to find a nice dress for me to wear. Lydia walked away angrily. A little later, while I was sitting in my room after freshening up, William came to see me. The arrogance he had shown at the cafe was gone. Looking uncomfortable, he informed me that dinner would be delayed by 20 minutes. Before leaving, he hesitated and quietly added that I looked beautiful in the dress Lydia had chosen. When dinner time finally arrived, I wore the elegant dress and high heels Lydia had given me. Along with them, she had handed me a small pair of scissors, claiming they were a special tool used in their home for eating snails. She warned me not to forget them. Having never attended a formal dinner before, I trusted her completely. When the food arrived, I followed her instructions and began eating the snails with the scissors. Lydia suddenly burst into laughter and called everyone's attention to me. She mocked me for using nail scissors at the dinner table and called me an embarrassing joke. The room fell silent. Tears filled my eyes, but instead of lowering my head, I looked directly at Albert and calmly explained that I knew those were nail scissors and that snails were not meant to be eaten that way. However, Lydia had insisted it was a tradition in their home, and I simply didn't want to disrespect the rules of the house. Albert's face turned red with anger. He demanded to know whether Lydia had truly done such a thing. When she couldn't deny it, he told her that her behavior was cruel and disgraceful and that she had embarrassed the entire family. The humiliation became too much for me to bear. Before anyone could stop me, I rushed out of the house and disappeared into the darkness of the night. I sat alone on a roadside bench, crying quietly to myself. After some time, I heard footsteps approaching. When I turned around, I saw William. He looked exhausted, as though he had been searching everywhere for me. He sat down beside me without saying a word. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Finally, he apologized for the way he had treated me at the cafe. He admitted that he had spent his entire life surrounded by wealth and privilege and had learned to judge people without truly knowing them. Meeting me had forced him to see how wrong he had been. He told me that despite everything life had taken from me, I still treated others with kindness, honesty, and dignity. He said that was something he rarely saw, even among the wealthy people he knew. For the first time, I felt that someone wasn't looking at me with pity. He was looking at me with genuine respect. That night, we sat together on the bench and talked for hours. William bought 2 fresh croissants from a nearby bakery, and we shared them while talking about our lives. For the first time in years, someone actually wanted to hear my story instead of judging it. I told him about the life I had lost and the hardships I had endured. In return, he told me about the pressures of growing up in a family where appearances often seemed more important than character. As the hours passed, the distance between our two worlds slowly disappeared. By sunrise, we were no longer strangers. We were simply two people who had finally learned to see each other for who they truly were. When we returned to the estate the next morning, Albert was waiting for us. The moment he saw me, he sincerely apologized for what had happened under his roof. He assured me that I would always be welcome there and promised that no one would ever disrespect me again. Lydia was forced to apologize as well. For the first time, she seemed genuinely ashamed of her actions. Over the following weeks, Albert kept every promise he had made. He helped me find a safe place to live and gave me an opportunity to rebuild my life. During that time, William and I continued spending time together. What began as friendship slowly grew into something much deeper. Looking back now, I still find it hard to believe how everything changed. I reached for a forgotten croissant because I was starving, and that single moment led me to people who transformed my life forever. That experience taught me that a person's true worth is not measured by money, status, or appearance. It is measured by the kindness they show to others. Sometimes, the people who seem worlds apart are the very people who end up understanding each other the most. I arrived at that cafe as a homeless girl searching for a meal. But I left with something far more valuable, a second chance, a place where I belonged, and people who finally saw me for who I truly was. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes, one small act of kindness can change someone's life forever. Thanks for watching.